Bravely we prove in our striving, trudging together each day. Where there's a will, there's a way.
The views and opinions expressed on Trudging Together are solely those of the host, co-host, and our guests. They do not necessarily reflect the views of any organization, fellowship, or other entity, and definitely not your boss, your neighbor, or that one guy in your home group. The content of this program is not intended to replace medical, psychological, or professional advice. If you're looking for that, please seek guidance from qualified professionals who spent way too many years in school. What you'll hear here is based on lived experience, recovery journeys, and the occasional bad coffee-fueled joke. Trudging Together is not affiliated with any 12-step fellowship. We are simply people sharing our stories and walking this path together, one day at a time. Thank you for joining us, and remember, recovery is serious business, but that doesn't mean we can't laugh along the way.
And we're here, two sober dudes on a Thursday, trudging to, how do we do that? Trudging Thursday, two sober dudes. Yeah, it doesn't work. How you doing,
A
Tyler?
lot of alliteration there. Doing
Yeah, a
good.
lot of T's.
Yeah. Hey, welcome, Michelle. Welcome, Amber.
Here we are, Tyler's two sober dudes trudging Thursdays.
You know, if we start doing it on Tuesdays and Thursdays, then we could just.
Oh man, that would really fuck it up.
Hey, Eric.
Hey,
Welcome.
Eric, what's up, dude? He just got done commenting. He liked the jokes from the last one. So we don't do jokes on this one because there's two of us. So, but yeah, there's two sober dudes where we take a topic, talk about it. How long have we been hanging out now, Tyler? At least 2 years.
Yeah, just getting close to 2.5 years.
2.5 years? Wow, man.
I think March will be about 2.5 years.
Right on. March isn't that far away. It's next.
No.
Well, it's in 4
This
days.
weekend.
2 days. No, how many? Is this a 28er or a 29er this year?
It's 28.
All right. So that means I will give you permission to drink on the 29th, the 30th, or the 31st of February.
2026.
So I'm going to show you guys something. I want to show something here real quick. Did I make a bad joke here? I'm going to share my screen right here. So this guy says right here, he says, I'm going to relapse, and he's going to use, right. And he gives this whole long thing. I said, okay, but don't do it on a Coors Light, brother. And he's like, such a strange comment. Sure, go ahead and relapse. Just make sure it's on the good stuff. I thought this was a joke. So you guys see it? I literally thought it was a joke. Why would you go on and announce that you're going to, that's what's weird. So I may just take it down.
That's a tough one. I don't know the person, so I couldn't tell you if it was a joke or not. If they posted it as a joke, then I don't know why they would get upset. But if they didn't post it as a joke, and then you did comment at that as a joke, I could see how that could cause some upset.
Huh.
If it was someone about to drink and just one last like, hey, I'm about to do it, I need help, then I could see how somebody could get upset.
Well, if he feels like he can drink again, okay, which I understand, then why would he reply, sure, go ahead and relapse? So he's admitting that he's relapsing, but in order to relapse, you need to be an alcoholic. So, all right, well, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to delete my comment, because what I also don't want to do is cause more confusion than harmony, right? So
yeah,
and that's what we call, friends, that is what we call a 10th step. Am I doing the right thing? Am I doing the right, because I'd rather he didn't relapse at all. That's what I would hope for. Hi, Angel.
Yeah.
Good to see you, but
maybe that was that person just being radically honest about where they were at. Like, here's where I'm at, guys.
maybe he,
maybe that was the somebody stop me, moment.
Yeah. Now there are a lot of comments on the, don't do it. Da, 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 da. All right. Anyway, I was just curious about that. So
But
Welcome.
no, I mean, I absolutely understand where you're coming from though. Like if I'm gonna go out, it better not be a natty
Yeah,
light. You know?
yeah. Well, I went out on a Coors Light, and it's a joke that I make. I'm like, I went out on something shitty, a Coors Light, you know. So that's probably where it came to for me. So either way, it's about doing the right thing, right? If he isn't joking, then maybe I ought to go do the work. Welcome to Two Sober Dudes. I'm Dion. Tyler is with me today. If you're here, please say hello, whether you're watching the live or the rewatch. Today's topic is types of honesty. I think being honest was the original time. I'm like, oh, I can expand it a little bit. But since you kind of came up with the topic, you might have something on mind. So I'm gonna let you. So Tyler, do you want to get us started today on this topic?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks again for having me on. And yeah,
Absolutely.
honesty just was what came to mind when you asked if I had a topic for the day, because I guess I was thinking about how I had recently shared about how I was as honest as I could be at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, honesty and truth aren't necessarily the same thing, right? Because the
Fair.
same things were still true. But if you were to ask me and I were to give you an honest answer, that honest answer would be different now than it was then.
Hmm.
Um, so I guess it was just interesting to me to see that the capacity to be honest with yourself and with others can grow, which
Hmm.
is a really interesting thing. Um, I didn't, I was oblivious to how bad life was for me and the people around me.
Hmm.
And looking back, it just seems so obvious. And I don't know where outside of, a higher power, I don't know where that moment of change came from. I do
Yeah.
recall looking into my mom's eyes and thinking, I don't want to see that look anymore.
Sure. Sure. I remember
Um,
those moments, but yeah, when did I make that turn to being honest? I don't know when it was either. Oh, maybe it happened slowly, kind of like everything else, where it just kind of slowly infiltrated my life. Um, to kind of let people know what we're talking about, if you're working with a new person and this person is just coming in, honesty is the first principle is the principle behind the first step. But are we really working with somebody who knows how to be honest? No. We'll say things like, to be honest, which means I'm probably full of it because I'm stating that I need to be honest, right? Um, the hard part is I didn't know where I was being dishonest. That was kind of the part that I didn't understand. So when working with a new person, we ask that you allow them to be as honest as they can at the moment. You work with, just like with every day, we work with what we have at the moment, right?
yeah, that's a really good point. I was doing the best I could with the tools that I had available.
Mhm. Yeah. What do you think is the first honest thing you said when you got here?
I don't know.
There you
I
go.
mean, I
That
think
was
that
it.
was it.
Yeah, I knew what you're saying. Yeah. Who's on first? Oh, he's on second. What? No, he's on
I don't
first.
know. I believe the first honest thing I said was I don't know whether it was I don't know how to do
Yeah,
this or I don't know what I
sure.
want. I don't know what needs to change. I don't know how to do this for sure.
It's a it's not an easy place to get to, you know. I think when we start to I was just with a sponsee, and something that I've noticed when people come into AA is never they don't come in for themselves. That's not usually the way that it works. It's usually some kind of outside force. And I think, you know, the first honest thing that happened was, I came home from detox. Like you were saying, I looked in my wife's eyes. I didn't like what I saw. I knew it was me and I had to change. At that point, I knew if I went any further, it was going to be the point of no return. In other words, that relationship would be over. And
Yeah.
at that moment, if that relationship would have been over, I'm not sure what I would have done. You know, my brain says, well, I'd just try and kill myself, but I don't know that I would have done that either. You know,
Yeah. And I mean,
so
I had seen that look multiple times in the past, which is where the whole, I don't know why that time it was
yeah,
different,
why it hit that time.
Yeah, like that, I'm sorry to the other people in my life before that came before that I made have that look and didn't make the change, right?
Mm.
But I can't turn back time. I can only make sure I don't cause that look in people's eyes moving forward.
Yeah, yeah, you know, and that's why I kind of brought up what I did earlier. I'm like, am I doing the right thing? And doing the right thing was taking it down. That I had to be honest about what we were talking about, right? And that honesty led to a truth. And the truth was I was causing a little more confusion than harmony, even though I didn't see it at the time. But in my mind, it was still the truth, but it wasn't honest, like what you were talking about earlier, right? So
Yeah,
I like to use examples that just happened.
that's absolutely been a struggle for me is the difference between so honest and unfiltered are two different things.
Hmm.
Yeah, and that's where some of the confusion for me comes in is just because what I said was true doesn't mean that I had to say it.
Yes.
Like I'm not being honest. I'm being hurtful with
Yeah.
the truth. You know,
Yeah.
and there's better ways that I can say things a lot of time while still being honest.
Yeah. Well, here's one, and it's funny where I was just talking about this with a sponsee again, is and this will match with what you were saying with being reactive, right? Intrusive thoughts, right? And when I say intrusive thought, it's that maybe somebody comes walking into a room. And for me, if you have tattoos all over your face, it's hard for me. I don't know why. Not sure why. But I get real judgmental. Yeah, well, you know, and these are the thoughts I do not let come out of my mouth because they're not true and they're not honest. And I'm bringing this up because it's been a little while since I've talked about it. But we all get intrusive thoughts. It's not your fault. It's just kind of how we're made up. But it's also not really the truth either. What do you think on that?
It reminds me a lot of the road to hell is paved with good intentions, right?
Oh, yeah,
Um, what you think is definitely going to impact how you feel, but it's the actions that you put into those thoughts that really make the impact on the rest of society and those around you.
uh-huh.
It's kind of the other side of that coin is the amount of times I said, look, I'm done drinking. I swear this is the last time, right?
Mhm.
Like, cool. Yeah, and I meant it. And then I
Sure.
went out and drank, right? So it's, yes, I wanted to, but I couldn't, I wasn't being honest enough with myself.
Hmm.
Like I wasn't honest enough to be able to say, I don't know how to not do that, you
Yeah.
know? Um, even though I wanted to. And it's kind of like the other way, you can flip that coin as well.
Hmm.
You know, I'm trying to help here and I ended up hurting here.
Yeah.
Like, did I need to help?
Yeah. What were my intentions? Why did I do this? Yeah. Um, I know that I have to, like earlier, my intentions were good because I thought we were having fun, but it was unthinking, right? And we make mistakes. So we correct those mistakes, right? And nothing wrong with that. So I'm gonna bring up a really hard one because I think people think of this differently. Okay. Brutal honesty. So let's look it up first. Let's kind of see what it has to say here. Because what some people might think is brutal honesty might be different for other people, depending on who you are, right? And how you it's real it isn't really even what it's called, it's how you utilize it, Would I be wrong in that?
You know, if people say brutal honesty, but I like the phrase radical honesty, right?
That's fair.
Like
Okay.
rigorously honest is being honest with yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then if you're going to be radically honest, then you don't filter anything, right? You say whatever it is, and that can be harmful,
Mm-hmm.
being brutally or radically honest.
Sure. Okay. I think that I appreciate you putting another level in there for us on that um because sometimes I think brutal honesty is just, sometimes it's hard to talk about the truth, man. And we have to bring these things, but brutal honesty does not include, at least for me, like name calling. You
Oh,
piece of crap, that I don't think that would be what you're calling it, where I didn't filter any shit,
yeah,
right?
yeah. See, that's what I thought with brutal honesty.
Yeah, so maybe if we had that other level in there, we can, because what I like doing is finding somewhere we can all land on here, right? And we all have
No,
our
I
different
I
ways.
didn't even think about that.
Yeah, you know, like yesterday, I had to write Aurora mental health, and I couldn't use unfiltered honesty. I couldn't do that because then I would drive off, but I had to be straightforward and I had to be brutally honest. And the honesty was, if you don't change, we're not sending you more people. That's what it was. Um, so, um, what is, I'm gonna look here, see what this says about it. Says brutal honesty, often ego driven. I'm just being real, can be harsh or self righteous. I think that's more the honesty that you were talking about. I forgot
And
what
that
name
and
you
that's
gave us.
that's kind of what my mindset thought was when I hear brutally honest. That's the type of stuff I
Yeah,
think of.
brutally honest is when, and like this. I used to run around and say, I would die for my kids. All right. Oh, I would die for my kids. And somebody finally said to me, Dion, that's great. All right. So I will be making a complaint on that. But dude, we had 7 people here. All right.
Good
Give me
old
another one.
technology, right?
Yeah.
Works when it works. But yeah, I think the discernment between what's true and what needs to be said is where, there's some like, is it kind? Is it helpful? Is it true? Like those are, things you can ask yourself. Does it need to be said? And
Mhm.
I have a lot of room to grow in that area, but for me, it's filtering that honesty. Like if I could be honest with myself about, is this going to be helpful or harmful?
Mhm.
Um, and a lot of times where I blur that line is when I'm trying to make people laugh, right?
Mhm.
I can easily hurt somebody's feelings when I'm trying to be funny. And so
Yeah.
as I've
Done that.
grown, I've learned to use better discernment when I'm trying to make people laugh.
Yeah.
And it's, kept me out of a lot of awkward conversations that I used to get into.
Yeah.
Um,
Yes, folks, this one is the live. Thank you for hanging out. They all came back. So I think we're on the same stream and everything. I do not know what happened. Yes, we are live right now at 2:22 on Thursday on February 26th. There you go. So, yeah, I would agree that discernment, um, certainly good. When I
and that's
tell
for the
jokes
rigorous.
now, if it's going to be a little risque, I think about it first, um, especially in mixed company, because I'm not sure how people are going to take it. Um, in grassroots, I don't think it really matters. We give each other so much crap. Like yesterday, there was one person that we were giving her a hard time. We're like, "Yeah, we talk about you in the parking lot meeting." And she's leaving them. We're like, bye, we get to talk about you now. And she knows that we're not doing that, but we get to have that fun. And then she gets to feel a part of it and stuff, right? Um, what are,
Right. I love that you said a part of, because that's a good question to ask yourself before you say something that might be true. Is this going to make somebody feel a part of or apart from?
mm, Yeah. Am I creating confusion or am I creating harmony? Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Now the hard, you were talking about like the hard conversations, right? Being honest there. And that's where finesse comes in. You know, you're part of the human experience is conflict. It's impossible to avoid conflict your whole life. It's not there. Do I love conflict? No, I try to avoid it at all costs, but there are times where hard conversations need to happen. And
Sure.
that's where I have to be really rigorous and figure out what I'm going to say
Mm-hmm.
and how can I give this piece of information that I'm trying to transmit to that person without with causing the least amount of harm and the most amount of good.
Yeah.
And that's where my emotions can fuck it all up.
Yeah. Well, and you know what? That was a great leeway because the next thing I was bringing up was emotional honesty, right? Um, and that fits right in there. Whether it's dumping, I don't know about you, but when I was drinking, man, boy, did I love drama. Not my drama, other people's drama. Back in the 90s, there was a song called OPP, stood for Other People's Problems, and boy, was I down with OPP. Uh, now I stay out of other people's drama. I try and be helpful, right? Because I was just using drama. Well, look, the police over there. Ha ha ha. Look, 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 look. Always, I was always looking for somebody worse than me so I could justify what I was doing. Always. And you can find
Yeah.
them. You can find them.
Yeah. It's a good question that I struggle to ask myself, but know is a good one to ask is if I'm going to be lifting myself up, I better like, am I pushing anyone else down to do it?
Cool.
Right.
Mm. Am I standing on the shoulders of people to make myself then yeah, you know, absolutely. Or am I going up and then reaching down to bring people up with me? Or am I just standing up there touting about what I am and who I am? Right. Um, but when we get into it, we can start, when we had start to admit things, like when we first get in, the first step, I'm struggling. I'm having a hard time. I don't know what to do anymore. Uh, I'm angry. Okay. Why? Why are you angry? All right. Um, the That's something that my therapist taught me, and I wish I would have known this a while back. But she says when you get those emotions, ask yourself why, and answer the whys until there are no more, and then you will be at the base emotion. Right? And I started doing that, and you know where it landed every single time? Fear. It's where it landed. I continued why. So now I don't even why it. I just go straight to John, what are you fearing? What in this situation are you fearing? And that's when we can start to get rigorously honest with ourselves, right?
Absolutely. I think being able to identify your own emotions and being able to figure out why you're feeling them
Mhm.
is, I mean, it really, that if you can take that time in between action and reaction, uh, you're going to end up building a lot better relations. Sorry, I've been building much better relationships with people
Mhm.
than I did when I only reacted to others. Um, I recently had an example. So I work with the general public, so
Mhm.
people. I work with people to help the people, and there's a leadership system in place,
Yeah.
and there's one person that when that particular person is there, a lot of people tend to have a harder time doing their job.
Okay.
And this person was asking me for help with a task, And I wanted, I wanted to react and be like, you should know how to do this and figure it out. But that was my emotions, right?
Mhm.
Like it bothered me. I know I felt like the justification was they pay you enough to know how to do this. They don't pay me enough to teach you how to do your job, right?
Sure,
That was my emotions there.
sure.
But not helping that person would have meant that everybody else was going to be more behind. And so I let them know that they were using the wrong part or whatever it was, and that's why
Yeah,
it wasn't working.
yeah,
Um, but it was I helped him get to the answer. It's like, hey, I don't think that that's the right lid. Like, what's
mhm,
wrong with the lid? Let me know what you think. Like, look at it and figure it out. And he realized, the person realized what it was and moved on and said thank you. Whereas I wanted to say, the internal part was anger, fear. I'm
yeah.
not getting enough money to do your job, right? But what came out was guidance and helpfulness.
Wow. What a change for us, right? And then, so since your reaction was different, life was different, not just for you, because I'm sure after that you had a different set of emotions. You probably felt gratitude instead of anger that you did the right thing. Um, and then everybody's day was a little bit better, and nobody needs to know anything.
Right.
And that is
That
what,
doesn't mean I'm not still gonna talk to some.
sure,
Um, but yeah, that day I absolutely made a phone call about that situation, talk to
yeah,
my higher power. And it was fear,
sure,
and ego for like pride. Um, but yeah, and again, that pride came down to fear that I wasn't gonna get what I wanted.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, there's let's see, Michelle wants to talk about some times when others cause pain, right?
yeah,
And that's a small example. That wasn't directly to me type of pain.
sure,
Um, maybe you want to speak on that. If not, I can think of some examples.
yeah. Well, I think she was just making a general statement. Well, we're going to go ahead and bring it up, but Amber also said, was it a really hard lid? So I want to throw a little humor there.
The lid,
Um,
Patrick.
I want to talk about some of the pain others cause, but I sit on it because I don't want to make the other person feel uncomfortable. Therapy is great for that. Therapy, your sponsor, closed mouth friend, you are absolutely allowed to talk about these things. And those are appropriate because it's not like you're going to call your therapist and talk shit about the person. You already know you can't call your sponsor and get away with that. But at least you can get those feelings off of your chest so you can move forward. Absolutely, we need to talk about those things. Um, because I usually found that when somebody had done something to me, it is because I had done something in the past that later placed me in a position to be hurt. It's usually what it was. Gotta be honest about that.
Yeah.
Financial honesty. Another
Let me
kind
know when
of
you get that one figured out. No, I'm
I
just
think a
kidding.
lot of us are still working on that.
Absolutely. And I'll continue to be working on that, at least for the foreseeable future.
I owe a
But
lot of money. Yep.
I don't believe that I'm gonna make the types of decisions that will put me in worse situations
We're
anymore.
not going to make it worse. Yeah. Yep.
And slowly we'll make it better as fast as I can.
Yeah. Even, even if we're just being honest, you'll find that like if you need to make a payment plan, just give the place a call. They'll usually make one with you. They're probably gonna want money down and things like that, but they'll usually work with you. Um, if you're standing in line at the teller and you see a $50 bill on the ground, we're not going to pocket that anymore. We're going to take it to the teller, say somebody lost $50. Hope the teller doesn't take it.
That
Yeah, being cash in.
absolutely.
Yeah, somebody gives you the
That
wrong change back. Before it was like, woo, now I don't have to drink Sailor Jerry. I can move up in the chain.
make
And
it the
now it's like
captain.
that person might lose their job if I take this money.
Yeah. I had a situation fairly recently where I had to do the right thing in a way that uh something happened that directly benefited me that should not have happened. It was somebody else's money.
Okay.
And I didn't catch it when it happened,
Okay.
but I later thought about it and was like, hey, so I work at a restaurant and somebody was like, hey, here's your cash tip, another employee. And I was like, oh, awesome, cool. And it was it was a $20 bill. And later on, it was kind of a slow day. Later on, I asked the person that gave it to me, I was like, hey, what table was that from? Because I didn't have the kind of experience. Usually you can make a connection with somebody when something like
Yeah,
that
you know
happens
it.
to me,
Yeah,
but I
you
I
learn
couldn't
the
figure
pattern.
out who would have done that. And they were like, it was, a table that was not my table. So, I went and found the person whose money it belonged to.
Yeah,
But like if I wouldn't have thought about that, or then I basically would have just somebody would have been out $20 and I would have had $20 that I didn't earn because somebody else made a mistake, right? And instead it got handled with hey, like I was upset that the person in that position made that type of a mistake, and I let them know that, and then I moved on with the day. But I felt better about losing that $20
then
than I
gaining
would
it.
have had I realized the next day and it had been too late.
Yeah, where you already spent it or something. And I mean, as somebody that's outside of that story, there's more to that than just that. That that was God. God was trying to teach somebody a lesson in that. It wasn't you, but he used you to do it. That's what I see. Because he knew he could rely on you. He knew that you were gonna be like, this ain't my $20. No, it needs. And so an example was needed to be made, and he chose you to be that example. That's what I see. Pretty cool stuff, man.
And that's a really good point. Sometimes it's not about, I mean, let me rephrase that. All of the time, it's not about teaching somebody else how to do the right thing. It's about demonstrating what the right thing looks like.
Mm-hmm.
I could tell you till you're blue in the face what to do, but if I'm not doing it, why would you?
There we go. Yeah. Um, I feel like it's our job at this point. I've been given such a great life that, what is asked of me is to be a good example. That is all that's really asked of me. Um, and it's not that hard. It once I got the concept, um, and I love the simplicity of it. That really helps me out a lot because otherwise my brain starts creating all these scenarios, and it's not something that I need to do. Um, how about spiritual honesty, right? Like there were a lot of times I relapsed a lot of times, and it's because I was saying I was surrendering, but I really wasn't. I hadn't really truly surrendered yet, and I wasn't being honest about that. There were still things that I wanted to hold on to.
I absolutely feel like that's it's a moving goalpost, right? Like
There,
you're never going to be done there.
yeah, that's true. Because I'm always finding things that I'm still pretty close-minded about.
You just
Yeah,
got to ask yourself, was I better today than yesterday? If the answer is no, was I better today than I was a week ago? If the answer is yes, awesome.
and we're
Move on.
good.
That's progress. Keep
Yeah.
going back. Was it better than you were a year ago? Probably.
Hmm. Yeah. Good point. Yeah, are we? And this is a tough one. you know. But it wasn't until I did make the decision to fully turn my life over to a higher power that things really started happening. It wasn't until I did that. And it's okay if it's taking you a little bit of time to get to that point. It took me 4 years. I thought it was 2, but I went back and recounted. No, I tried to quit drinking for 4. It was 3.5. My wife and I figured it out. Yeah. So I'm trying to correct that. Either way, it still sucked. So, you know, but it's hard to get to that. But I have found that with alcoholics, it isn't until the consequences are big enough that we are willing to even take a look at it. Until the consequences
Absolutely.
are too overwhelming. Are we really praying or are we performing? You know, how are
Back to
we
that
praying?
intent, right?
Yeah,
Back to the what was my intent? Am I here to gain what I can and share what I have? Or am I here because I said I would be and I got to check that box,
yeah,
right? Like that's you're going to see a difference. And I've seen a difference in the success rate of, in it or at it.
yeah. Okay, stuff. Right. How
And
about?
sometimes, at least for me, I had to be at it until I could be in it,
Mhm.
but that's where that progress comes in. As I learned to be more honest with myself, I was able to get more involved and into
Mhm.
the program instead of just being at the place.
Yeah. Um, yeah, until I did that 4th and 5th step, I kind of felt like I was a fraud until I had done some of the work. Now it wasn't. I belonged there. But at the same thing, my tummy told me I wasn't quite there yet. But it wasn't until I did that 5th step that I really felt like I belonged in Alcoholics Anonymous because I really got honest, and that put me on the same level as everybody else in the group. And that's when I became a part of the whole. Um, about
Yeah,
how about
that
honesty in relationships? Ooh,
yeah, that's um I, again, I feel I hate to keep bringing it back to being honest with yourself, but
it's where it all starts.
you can only be as honest with others as you are with yourself.
Absolutely.
If and again, is it going to cause harm, right? There's a lot more nuance, a lot more finesse, a lot more thinking, a lot less reacting in order to be successful there.
Hmm.
um Especially if you're already in a relationship and you're trying to build a better life and system, there might be
Sure.
things from your past that you have to make amends for. And that's where that discernment comes in. You have to be honest. You have to be honest. You have to talk to your higher power,
Yeah.
talk to a trusted advisor, sponsor, mentor, religious person, leader. But yeah, I mean, and that's assuming that the goal is to continue to build this relationship and keep this
Sure.
relationship, because it's really easy to try and make up for your past and ruin someone else's present and future in the process.
Mm, absolutely. Now, if we're talking about an intimate relationship, let's talk about that, and then we'll go broad with a lot of relationships. If you're not in a relationship yet, and I'm not going to sit here and say you've got to have this amount of time or you have to do this, you have to do that. Get through a good portion of the steps, things like that. But really, what it comes down to is becoming a person that's worth having. And it's hard to say, but I too, I was in a relationship when I sobered up, but I still had to become a husband worth having. I had to have worth. And that meant finding out who Dion really was so I could bring the real Dion to the relationship and not the fake one. And it doesn't matter whether you're going to go into a relationship or you're in one, we have to change and become our best versions, is what I would say. Then you will attract what you're looking for. That's what'll happen.
Yeah. I really like the idea of, don't look for the person you want to date, become the person, right?
Mhm.
It's
Power of
very similar to
intention.
the be the change you want to see in the world. Like that's, be the person you'd want to date. And that's how you're going to find the kind of person that you would date.
Yeah. Make some room in your closet for somebody. Don't sleep on the other side of the bed. Be intentional. Act like it's already happening, right? That's the power of intention. Is
Yeah.
I don't know if I don't know. Can't remember the last time The Secret was a big deal. Did you ever read that book, The Secret?
Loved it. That
Yeah.
and the what the bleep do we know?
Yeah. Uh, that was huge for a long. Now for me, emotional sobriety was big in this part for me because I didn't know how to love appropriately. Alcohol took that away from me. So once I stopped putting demands on other people to be what I needed them to be to provide me with prestige and power and the like, goes away, right? And then you start to get in those. Then I started loving appropriately, right? Which means that it's just a relationship because alcohol does something weird in my head that makes everything sexual, everything, and it fucked up my all my intimacy, man. Um, so so there again, I had to become that person, and then I understood that is when the 11 step prayer really did something for me. We call it the 11 step prayer, the St. Francis prayer, where then I started to understand that it was better to understand than to be understood, that it was better to love than to be loved. And the mixture finally hit for me because I was just loving people appropriately. And what I did is I went and I learned the love languages, and that's how I started doing it. I did that with you. I do that with all my sponsees. I find out your love language, and that's how I meet. That's how I meet my sponsees. Right? It's not. It's usually not too hard to figure out. So, Eric
Yeah.
says, "I like that, Dion. My drinking has often been fueled by loneliness. Yeah, mine too, man. Absolutely. We are a very lone. We're a very lonely people. So, it's not surprising that when we get into AA and we don't have the alcohol, that you see people hitting on people all over the place, because lonely hearts will pine. They will.
Yeah. There's a hole and we need to fill it
Yeah. Yeah. It's a
in our
God-sized
hearts.
hole. Yeah. And the fellowship can fill that hole. Yeah. It's my higher power. You know, if I just relied like on my wife to fill that hole, what a big task, man. And that's why we need to have a fellowship. I have several people that I go to. I used to go to my wife a lot when I was 10 stepping stuff. Now I hardly ever go to her on it. She doesn't need it. All right. But that's also because I have a bigger fellowship now. So that definitely helps. So what do you think is the cost of dishonesty? I think we all kind of know that. I'll list them off here: isolation, anxiety, secrets, the double life. Oh my God, I'm so glad I don't have to live that. Ego protection, relapse risk. Dishonesty feeds addiction. Absolutely, it does because the addiction in and of itself is a lie.
Yeah, I mean, the dishonesty can cost you any and everything, depending on how deep you want to go with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
From your life to your house to your finances to your spouse I mean, it can cost you everything.
absolutely. Yeah. Um, it's like we're like the little boy that cried wolf, man. We keep yelling wolf, and now we yell for help, and nobody shows up, and we wonder why. It's because we did it so many times. But I'm
Hmm.
serious time. Well, why was serious? It's hard to figure out. That's why having a recovered alcoholic works because we'll see through the bullshit. We'll know bullshit when it is. And that's why it's good. Oh, I hear what you're saying. I used to think that way too, but I was wrong. It's actually that, oh, okay, well, now I don't want to go drink. Oh, okay. You know, um, do you have any parting words of wisdom on honesty or on anything that we've kind of talked about?
Honestly, I don't think
Yeah, to be honest.
I
Yeah.
don't think I do. I mean, I do. I try to be more honest with myself every day. Um, and that's, don't give up on that.
Mm,
There's always some more room to grow.
absolutely, there is. Yeah. And I would have to concur with that, that honesty, no matter what kind it is that we were talking about, starts with you. It's got to, because it has to start somewhere. And you are that starting point, and you are capable of doing it. Okay. And the more rigorously honest you are with yourself, you will automatically become that way with other people. But if you start doing that with other people, it won't change in you. You won't be able to do it because you
Yeah.
transmit something you do not have. And if you're not being honest with yourself, you are incapable of being honest with others. This is how it works. So, all right. Well, thank you everybody for hanging out, especially through the technical difficulties. I appreciate that. Oh
Yeah,
God,
thank
is it
you
gonna
all.
make me it they just made it so hard for me to repost this, but I'll figure it out. So Tyler, again, as always, good to have you.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, another great talk. Well, this is your show too, dude. So um, so thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Oh, all right.
Thank you, everybody.
This has been Too Sober Dudes. We love you. You know we do. Peace out and keep on trudging.